Hello. Today we'll start the chapter Working of Institutions. Chapter 4. 4.1. How is a major policy decision taken? Government order. On August 13, 1990, the Government of India issued an order. It was called an Office Memorandum. Like all government orders, it had a number and is known by that OM number 360112/31/90 EST SCT dated 13 August 1990. The Joint Secretary, an officer in the Department of Personnel and Training in the Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievance and Pension, signed the order. It was quite short, barely one page. It looked like any ordinary circular or notice that you may have seen in the school. The government issues hundreds of orders every day on different matters. But this one was very important and became a source of controversy for several years. Let us see how the decision was taken and what happened later. This order was announced a major policy decision. It said that 27% of the vacancies in civil posts and service and the government of India reserved for socially and educationally backward classes or ACBC. A new third category called ACBC was introduced. Only persons who belong to backward classes were eligible for quota of 27% jobs. Others could not compete for these jobs. Decision makers. President is the head of the state and is the highest formal authority in the country. Prime Minister is the head of the government and actually exercises all governmental powers. He takes most of the decisions in the cabinet meetings. Parliament consists of the President and two houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. The Prime Minister must have the support of a majority in Lok Sabha members. The Office Memorandum was the culmination of a long chain of events. The Government of India had appointed the Second Backward Classes Commission in 1979. It was headed by B.P. Mandal, hence it was popularly called the Mandal Commission. It was asked to determine the criteria to identify the specially and educationally backward classes in India and recommend steps to be taken for their advancement. The Commission gave its report in 1980. Then came the Lok Sabha election of 1989. In its election manifesto, the Janata Dal promised that if voted to power, it would implement the Mandal Commission report. The Janata Dal did form the government after this election. Its leader VP Singh became the Prime Minister. Several developments took place after that. The President of India, in his address to the Parliament, announced that intention of the government to implement the recommendation of Mandal Commission. On 6 August 1990, the Union Cabinet took a formal decision to implement the recommendation. Next day, Prime Minister VP Singh informed the Parliament about the decision through a statement in both of the House of Parliament. The decision of the Cabinet was sent to the Department of Personnel and Training. The senior officer of the department drafted an order in line with the Cabinet decision and took the Minister's approval. An officer signed the offer on behalf of the Indian government. This was the OM number 36012 3190, was born on 13 August 1990. Some felt that existence of inequality among the people of India necessitated job reservations. They felt this would give a fair opportunity to those communities who so far had not adequately been represented in government employees. Who resolved this dispute? You know that the Supreme Court and the High Court in India settle disputes arising out of government decisions. Some person and association opposed to this order filed a number of cases in the courts. They appealed to the courts to declare the order invalid and stop its implementation. The Supreme Court of India bunched all these cases together. This case was known as the Indira Sawhney and others versus the Union of India case. 11 judges of the Supreme Court heard arguments of both sides. By a majority, the Supreme Court judges in 1992 declared that this order of the government of India was valid. At the same time, the Supreme Court asked the government to modify its original order. It said that well-to-do persons among the backward classes should be excluded from getting the benefit of reservation. According to the Department of Personnel and Training, issued another official memorandum on 8 September 1993. The dispute thus came to an end, and this policy has been followed since then. The Prime Minister and the Cabinet and institution that take all important policy decisions. The civil servants working together are responsible for taking steps to implement the minister's decisions. Supreme Court is an institution where disputes between citizens and the government are finally settled. 4.2 Parliament. Why do we need a parliament? In all democracies, an assembly of elected representatives exercise supreme political authority on behalf of the people. In India, such a national assembly of elected representatives is called parliament. At the state level, this is called legislature or legislative assembly. 1. Parliament is the final authority for making laws in the country. This task of lawmaking or legislation is so crucial that this assembly is also called legislatures. Parliaments all over the world can make new laws, change existing laws, or abolish existing laws, and make new ones in their place. Parliaments all over the world exercise some control over those who run the government. In some countries like India, this control is direct and full. Those who run the government can take decisions only so long as they enjoy support of parliament. Parliaments control all the money that governments have. In most countries, that public money can be spent only when Parliament sanction it. Parliament is the highest forum of discussion and debate on public issues and national policy. In any country, Parliament can seek information about any matter. Two houses of Parliament. Most large countries divide the role and powers of Parliament in two parts. They are called chambers or houses. One house is usually directly elected by the people and exercise the real power on behalf of the people. The second house is elected completely indirectly and performs some special functions. The most common work for the second house is to look after the interests of various states, regions, or federal units. In our country, parliament consists of two houses. The two houses are known as the Council of States Rajya Sabha and the House of the People Lok Sabha. It might appear that the Rajya Sabha is more powerful. For some time, it is called the upper chamber and the Lok Sabha the lower chamber. But this does not mean that Rajya Sabha is more powerful than Lok Sabha. This is just an old style of speaking and not the language used in our constitution. Our constitution does give the Rajya Sabha some special power over the states, but on most matters, the Lok Sabha exercises supreme power. Any ordinary law needs to be passed by both the houses, but if there is a difference between the two houses, the final decision is taken in a joint session, in which members of both houses sit together. Because of the larger number of members, the view of the Lok Sabha is likely to prevail in such a meeting. Lok Sabha exercises more powers in money matters. Once the Lok Sabha passes the budget of the government or any other money related law, the Rajya Sabha cannot reject it. Rajya Sabha can only delay it by 14 days or suggest changes in it. The Lok Sabha may or may not accept these changes. The most importantly, the Lok Sabha controls the Council of Ministers. Only a person who enjoys the support of the majority of the members in the Lok Sabha is appointed the Prime Minister. If the majority of the Lok Sabha members say they have no confidence in the Council of Ministers, all ministers, including the Prime Minister, have to quit. The Rajya Sabha does not have this power. Purvanti, political executives. We find functionaries who take day-to-day decisions but do not exercise supreme power on behalf of the people. All those functionaries, collectively known as executive, they are called executive because they are in charge of the execution of the policies of the government. Thus, when we talk about the government, we usually mean the executive. Political and permanent executive. On that is elected by the people for a specific period is called the political executive. In the second category, people are appointed on a long-term basis. It is called the permanent executive or civil service. Persons working in civil service are called civil servants. They remain in office even when the ruling party changes. The office work under political executive and assist them in carrying out the day-to-day administration. The civil servant is usually more educated and has some expert knowledge of the subject. The advisor working in the finance ministry know more about economics than the finance minister. This could easily happen in minister like defense industry, health, science and technology and mines. The reason is very simple. In a democracy, the will of the people is supreme. The minister is an elected representative of the people and thus empowered to exercise the will of the people on their behalf. She is finally answerable to the people for all the consequences of her decision. That is why the minister takes all the final decision. The minister decides the overall framework and objectives in which decision on policy should be made. The minister is not and is not accepted to be an expert in the matters of her ministry. The minister takes the advice of experts on all technical matters. But very often experts hold different opinions or place before her more than one option. Depending on what the overall objective is, the minister decides. Actually, this happens in any large organization. Those who understand the overall picture take the most important decision, not the experts. The experts can tell the route, but someone with a larger view decides the destination. In a democracy, elected ministers perform this role. Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. Prime Minister is the most important political institution in the country. Yet there is no direct election to the post of the Prime Minister. The President appoints the Prime Minister, but President cannot appoint anyone she likes. The President appoints the leader of the majority party or the coalition party that commands that majority in Lok Sabha. In case no single party or alliance gets a majority, the President appoints the person most likely to secure a majority support. The Prime Minister does not have a fixed tenure. He continues in power so long as he remains the leader of the majority party or coalition. After the appointment of the Prime Minister, the President appoints other minister on the advice of Prime Minister. The ministers are usually from the party or the coalition that has majority in the Lok Sabha. The Prime Minister is free to choose minister as long as they are members of the parliament. A person who is not member of parliament can also become a minister, but such a person had to get elected to one of the houses of parliament within 6 months of appointment as ministers. Cabinet ministers are usually top level leaders of the ruling party or parties who are in charge of the major ministries. Usually, the cabinet minister meets to take decisions in name of the Council of Ministers. Cabinet is thus the inner ring of the Council of Ministers. It comprises about 25 ministers. Ministers of state with independent charge are usually in charge of smaller ministry. They participate in the cabinet meetings only when specially invited. Ministers of state are attached to and required to assist cabinet ministers. Since it is not particular for all ministers to meet regularly and discuss everything, the decisions are taken in cabinet meetings. That is why parliamentary democracy in most countries often known as the cabinet form of government. The cabinet works as a team. The ministers may have different views and opinions, but everyone has to own up to every decision of the cabinet. No minister can openly criticize any decision of the government, even if it is about other ministry or department. Every ministry has secretaries, who are civil servants. The secretaries provide the necessary background information to the ministers to take decisions. The cabinet as a team is assisted by the cabinet secretariat. This includes many senior civil servants who try to coordinate the working of different ministries. Power of the Prime Minister. He chairs cabinet meetings. He coordinates the work of different departments. Decisions are final in case disagreement arises between departments. He exercises general supervision of different ministries. All ministers work under his leadership. The Prime Minister distributes and redistributes work of the ministers. He also power to dismiss ministers. When the Prime Minister quits, the entire ministry quits. If the cabinet is the most powerful institution in India, within it, the cabinet is the Prime Minister who is the most powerful. The power of the Prime Minister in all parliamentary democracies of the world have increased so much in size that parliamentary democracy is sometimes seen as prime minister form of government. Prime minister controls the cabinet and parliament through the party. We have seen such a tendency towards the constitution of power in the hands of Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India. Exercised enormous authority because he had great influence over the public. Indira Gandhi was also a very powerful leader compared to her colleagues in the government. Of course, the extent power wielded by Prime Minister also depend on the personality of the person holding that position. However, in recent years, the rise of coalition politics has improved certain constraints on the power of Prime Minister. The Prime Minister of a coalition government cannot take decision as he likes. The President. While the Prime Minister is the head of the government, the President is the head of the state. Is our political system the head of the state exercise only nominal powers? The President of India is like the Queen of Britain, whose functions are to large extent ceremonial. The President supervises the overall functioning of all the political institutions in the country, so that they operate in harmony to achieve the objective of the state. The President is not elected directly by the people. The elected members of parliament and elected members of the legislative assembly elect her. A candidate standing for president post had to get majority of votes to win the election. President can be seen to represent the entire nation. At the same thing, the president can never claim the kind of direct popular mandate that the prime minister can. This ensures that the sea remains only a nominal executive. The same is true for power of the president. If you casually read the constitution, you think that there is nothing that she cannot do. All government activities take place in the name of the president. All laws and major policies, decision the government has issued in her name. All major appointments are made in her name in the president. This includes the appointment of the Chief Justice of India, the judges of the Supreme Court, and the High Courts of the states, the governments of the states, the election commissioner, ambassador to other countries. All international treaties and agreements are made in the name of the president. The president is the supreme commander of the defense forces of India. But we should remember that the president exercises all these powers only on advice of the council of ministers. The president can ask the council of ministers to reconsider his advice, but if the same advice is given again, he is bound to act according to it. Similarly, a bill passed by the parliament becomes a law only after the president gives assent to it. If the president wants, he can delay this for some time and send it back to the parliament for reconsideration. But if parliament passes the bill again, he has to sign it. One very important thing we should do on our own, appoint the prime minister. When a party or coalition of parties secure a clear majority in the election, the president has to appoint the leader of the majority party or the coalition that enjoys majority support in the Lok Sabha. When no party or coalition gets a majority in the Lok Sabha, the president exercises her discretion. The president appoints a leader who, in her opinion, can muster majority support in Lok Sabha. In such a case, the president can ask the newly appointed prime minister to prove majority support in the Lok Sabha within a specific time. 4.4. The judiciary. The Indian judiciary consists of a Supreme Court for the entire nation, high courts in the state, district courts, and the courts at the local level. India has an integrated judiciary. It means the Supreme Court controls the judiciary administration in the country. Its decisions are binding to all other courts of the country. It can take up any dispute between citizens of the country, between citizens and the government, between two or more state governments, and between government at the union and state level. It is the highest court to appeal in the civil and criminal case. It can hear appeal case against the decision of the high courts. Independence of the judiciary means that it is not under the control of the legislature or the executive. The judges do not act on the direction of the government or according to the wishes of the party in power. That is why all modern democracies have courts that are independent of the legislature and the executive. India has achieved this. The judges of the Supreme Court and the High Courts are appointed by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister and in consultation with the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. The senior judges of the Supreme Court select the new judges of Supreme Court and the High Courts. There is very little scope for interference by the political executive. The senior most judge of the Supreme Court is usually appointed the Chief Justice. Once a person is appointed as the judge of the Supreme Court or the High Court, it is nearly impossible to remove him or her from that position. It is difficult as removing the President of India. A judge can be removed only by an impeachment motion passed separately by two-thirds member of the two houses of the Parliament. The judiciary in India also one of the most powerful in the world. The Supreme Court and the High Courts have the power to interpret the constitution of the country. They can declare invalid any law of the legislature or the action of the executive, whether at the union level or the state level, if they find such a law or action is against the constitution. Thus, they can determine the constitutional validity of any legislature or action of the executive in the country. When it is challenged before them, this is known as the judicial review. The Supreme Court of India also has ruled that the core or basic principle of the constitution cannot be changed by the parliament. The powers and the independence of the Indian judiciary allow it to act as the guardian of the fundamental rights. Anyone can approach the courts if public interest is hurt by the action of government. This is called public interest litigation or PIL.